Multimodal biometric authentication. Integration of face and iris recognition technologies enhances convenience and reliability.
Orchestrating a brighter world, NEC.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Top in Tech. Today we're looking at the digital ID scenario, and this show is brought in partnership with NEC. Thanks a lot to NEC for coming on board. And as, we have our moderator here, Karam Singh. Hi, Karam.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, Karamjit. How are you?
Good, very good.
I think it's going to be a really interesting episode. I think a lot of people are very interested in the topic of digital ID. There's been a lot of discussion about it the last couple of years.
Yes.
MCMC has been doing a study on it, and I hear there's something in the budget for the national ID too.
Yep. And I think there have been lots of questions. So we those who RSVP'd beforehand have submitted quite a number of questions also. And the good news is we are addressing as many of those questions as we can.
Yes, I think a lot of people want to know, what's the digital ID about? How is it going to, incorporate the life? At the moment, we use our IC so much, right? But now, more and more we're going to be interacting remotely with our banks, with other service providers. And I'm sure the digital ID will have a role to authenticate us as so that, nobody can actually steal our identification.
Yep.
So I'll hand it over to you, and I look forward to hearing more about the national ID.
Let us let our three subject matter experts, right, enlighten us, and and they're going to be enlightening us with the help of the questions you have sent. For those of you who have been already attending previous Top in Tech webinars, you will know that we will try our very best to handle and to field as many questions as we can. So while I'm talking or while I'm listening to one of the panelists, the other two will always be looking at the stream of questions that you submit also to take those questions on, right? So don't worry about this. The only request I ask is that probably at the last, do not send in your questions in the last 5 minutes, okay? Because last 5 minutes, we will do our wrap up where each of the three panelists will be asked to share their key takeaways of the session, and then Prem will come back on to do a wrap up also. So try not to do that. But however, if you stay on till the end of the last video also, the panelists will actually be engaging with you and answering questions, or sharing context with you how you can engage further, right? If there's no time to take your questions. So just be reassured about that. And what we're going to do now is, we're going to have all before we have the three panelists come on, because DNA and Malaysia Kini have jointly collaborated to produce something very interesting and very important in Malaysia, and that is a new award show. And the impetus for this award show, which is actually called our Top in Tech Innovation Award, is because a lot of businesses, a lot of entrepreneurs have done admirably in facing this, a never in our lifetime event that we are all facing and experiencing now. And we wanted to acknowledge and highlight companies which have done an incredible job in facing the pandemic and thriving despite all the challenges. And this award is called the Top in Tech Awards. We're going to do a quick video for you to have a look and understand better what the awards is, and hopefully you can share the word with those interesting parties out there whom you think may be suitable to enter the awards, okay? So let's see if we can get the video running.
In these difficult times, we have seen many companies innovate and transform their business strategies and produce outstanding outcomes.
These breakthroughs in business model and in technology adoption should be recognized, and we invite all entrepreneurs, innovators and corporate leaders to participate in our inaugural Top in Tech Innovation Award. Okay, there you go. So now we're going to get the show on the road, and our first panelist who's going to give opening, so all of them are going to give opening 3-minute remarks. You already would have been familiar with him if you've been attending previous sessions, and that tells you how important this person is and the role he's playing as the head for MyDigital in trying to push Malaysia's digital economy agenda further. And let me introduce Fabian Bigar, right, from MyDigital, and Fabian is going to give his opening 3 minutes comments. But before that, very quickly, you can see that there is a poll, and we just want to get a sense of your familiarity and your interest around, understanding a very basic concept that whether anyone knows the difference between My Card and our digital national ID. So just while Fabian is talking, you can just quickly answer the poll, and it will disappear once you've answered the poll. Okay, so Fabian, the screen is yours.
All right. Thank you, Karamjit.
You're welcome.
Thank you for inviting me once again. Let me just run this through. Okay, for those who are in the previous session, I think you've seen this, but with a slight difference. I think first few slides are the same. Just a bit of intro for those who have just joined us. We are an outfit under EPU, and we are actually the secretariat to the National Digital Economy and for our council, chaired by the Prime Minister. And under this council, there are actually 6, key trusts, or what we can, in common words, we can even call them the technical working group. The one that looks at digital talent, digital infrastructure, emerging technology, economy, society, and the government. So, of course, the topic we are speaking today comes under the purview of the government cluster, and also it touch a bit about society. Okay, as you all have probably heard and seen before, there were 2 documents, very important documents launched this year. One is, of course, the digital economy blueprint, and the other one is the National 4IR policy. Okay? Both documents are under the purview of this council, and we are the secretary that looks at it. There are 168 initiatives from both these documents. So of the 168 initiatives, one that is pertinent today is the National Digital Identity, to accelerate its implementation, to improve security, service delivery, and convenience to the riot, of course. Of course, it comes under the purview of the government, the the trust one, that is the digital government, but as well as you can see, Trust 6 of the blueprint talks about building trusted, secure, and ethical digital environment. So I believe, it cuts across both trusts. And of course, the lead agency here is the Ministry of Home Affairs, and they are represented here also today by Puan Laila.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. As for the potential users, of course, this one is everybody's knowledge. It comes in, you use it for, it facilitates verification and also eliminate repetitive verification. So you don't want to be keying in the same thing all the time.
Yep.
So yeah, so it's in the field of health, you can, is EMR or electronic health records, education records. You want to get your SPM results. Probably you don't have to be physically there anymore, but we have to be sure that it's you collecting your results. Okay. Then of course, application and wealth, dishing out welfare assistance, e-commerce. Of course, that one is quite normal already by now. Yep. Government online services, financial eKYC, e-hailing, pensions, people receiving pensions. Then you have to make sure that it falls in the right hands. And then of course, telecommunication, and of course, many more applications. Then of course, for us in the government, what the potential benefits to the government, of course, transparency. You talk about transparency, reducing fraud. You save resources because of administrative efficiency.
Yep.
Reducing OPEX, increasing the revenue because more and more people, will subscribe to these services. Financial inclusion, enhanced government services. Of course, finally, for Malaysia to be a very business-friendly economy. Okay, with that, I thank you, and over to you back, Karamjit.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Fabian. And for those who are interested, you can go to the website of this government agency called Futurize. If you go to the website, they have actually done a 1-year report card called FIRST, F-I-R-S-T. And there is a the survey results are out. Fantastic. Wow, over half know. Okay, excellent. This is a very good awareness. Fantastic. So, but there is just quickly, there is a 1-year, not report card, but a 1-year progress report that they've done for Futurize, and you will see a very interesting data point about digital, national digital signature, which is related to digital ID. So go there and have a look at it. I think it won't be a waste of your time. So with that, thank you very much, Fabian. And now we're going to bring in a very important person also to our conversation, another representative of the government, and this is from the JPN. So all of you, please don't send in your complaints about IC here, okay? Because we got more important things to talk about now. And this is Puan Laila Abdul Majid. So welcome to the show, and the next 3 minutes is all yours, Puan Laila.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Karam.
Welcome.
Good morning and Assalamualaikum to all viewers of today's series. Without delay, I continue to convey what I want to convey regarding IDN. IDN is Identity Digital National. Okay. It is an initiative by the government in developing a trusted identity verification platform for all Malaysian. Slow.
No problem. Yep, can see it.
Okay. As what Mr. Fabian said just now, the source of the project's authority is by the decision of the National Digital Economic and for IR Council meeting held on 10th October 2020, which is chaired by nation's Prime Minister, and also the launching of Malaysia Digital Economic Blueprint on 19 February 2021. Cabinet meeting on 14th April 2021 has decided that IDN will be led by Ministry of Home Affairs through National Registration Department.
Okay.
I'm sure all viewers already know about IDN. IDN is National Digital Identity, which in Malay we call it Identity Digital National, just terbalikkan.
Yeah.
It is a form of digital identification used to get digital services and perform online transaction more securely. This will indirectly generate excellence in the digital economy and national income. bear in mind, IDN will never replace identity card or my card.
Okay.
But it is a complement to identification of every citizen. This can further strengthen the identification of individuals in facilitating any matters pertaining to individuals. So next. Okay. The benefits of IDN projects. The benefits will be obtained through the implementation of IDN involve two parties, which is government and public. For government, I believe this initiative will increase efficiency, reduce operating costs, and save time in the identification verification process.
Okay.
Okay. All the authentication can be done online at any time and at anywhere. So we can, we are ready for 24/7 transaction daily. So indirectly, it will help government to identify identification forgeries in digital service transaction. And of course, service delivery become more efficient and reliable in the trusted digital services. So for public, IDN will assist citizens in supporting contactless use case in a new normal life due to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, and provide value added to various services sectors and improvement of the quality of life of the people. So for the socio-economic impact, in terms of socio-economic, IDN will impact three parties, namely the public sector, private sector, and also citizen. So for public sector's perspective, IDN indirectly provides cost saving in terms of administrative and eliminate redundancy of system. So the most important are IDN is believed to be able to reduce fraud in subsidy scheme, financial, and also insurance, because all applicant data can be verified directly from the JPN database. Directly from JPN database. So for private sector also can gain benefit, which are this initiative will increase company revenue, reduce OPEX, and indirectly being one of the country's economic climate channels. So this will add convenience to the private sector in reducing costs during the implementation of onboarding and verification processes, and will give more satisfaction to customers with a very interesting experience. Not forgetting that SMEs will also be more efficient and more convenient in doing their business.
Okay.
Okay. Other than that, citizens will go through an experience that will give them convenience to reduce the time for the authentication process.
Yep.
This is because they do not need to provide various other documents to confirm they are real individuals.
Fantastic.
Their data will be accessible directly. So, and more importantly, citizen concerns regarding the fraud of their identities by other individuals can be reduced or can be stopped. What I'm saying is some of the economic impact that we can outline at the moment. And we are confident that over the time, IDN will give more benefits and impact to all parties. So, okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Karam.
I think as entrepreneurs also realize the benefits of IDN and they'll embed it into their business models. So you'll definitely see more use cases. And I hear you so many times, you were saying convenience, right? And that convenience means time savings, right? And you save time, you're saving money. So I absolutely see the value of that. So it's very interesting. All right, now let's bring on the private sector guy for his 3 minutes perspective of this topic. Can we get Dennis Lau on?
Hey, hi.
Hey, yes.
Thanks for having me here.
No worries, man.
Good afternoon. Let me just bring up my slides.
Sure thing.
Just want to do a quick chat. Everybody can see my slides?
Yep.
Okay, good. Quick introduction. I'm Dennis. I'm the head of enterprise solution for NEC Malaysia. Basically, there's a very interesting poll result that we saw just now. Almost like slightly more than 50% that people is aware about what is the differentiation between my card and also digital ID. And surprisingly, there's about 50% of the people who say that either they do not know or they do not too sure. I would say that what is it all about. So perhaps maybe I just want to do a quick introduction of what digital ID is all about. I think Fabian has kind of like highlighted a little bit about what digital ID can actually helps. Of course, Laila from JPN has also mentioned about the benefits of it. But in essence, I think digital ID is a way for us to really verify a particular person in a cyber world. I mean, in the cyber world, you could be not seeing the person. It is done all remotely. Physically, you are not there. You just want to know who that person claims that he is or she is. And you need to do a lot of authentication on that. We thought about this ID is going to be for everyone, but certainly I think as start, we should be looking at citizen, permanent residents, or perhaps in future, we are able to extend it based on the use cases in the industry, because we are talking about enterprises and also in public. Potentially some of the use case can be for foreigner or visitor to Malaysia. So there's no limit. There's no limit that, a digital ID has to be for Malaysian, but because it is done digitally, it can be easily extended to visitor. Of course, earlier on, we talked about it's really a complementary to my card. We will go into very deep discussion about how this complementary actually, digital ID can actually complement my card. Of course, it's a two-way authentication, right? I think in the previous episode, in Kidding Event, we talked about digital signature. And one of the key topics we talked about is PKI. I think that is the way how PKI will be included in this thing called digital ID to safeguard how information exchange is going to work. And most importantly is that it is also a form of digital signature where digital ID can be used. Now, what is inside this digital ID? I think a lot of time the misconception is that it's just about biometrics information, but it's more than biometrics information. It could be your health record. It could be, your education background. It could be even your contact details. So as much as possible, the information can be added. It is how much information do you want to include into a digital ID? And what is the relevancy of this digital ID in the context of, for instance, as a health passport. Today we talked about health passport. Everybody need to have this vaccination done, and you have to produce a digital cert. And this ID can be in that form where you have all the vaccination, history that you have. And this is a way of identifying yourself that you have done your vaccination. Of course, there's other IDs like your employee ID, beneficiary ID. In country like more advanced like Estonia, who has been in digital platform for the longest time. Right? They even use digital ID as one of their so-called voter ID for general election. And they have done it like since I think in the 2000s, right? They have already started using that kind of digital ID for their general election, right? So in government context, I think Fabian and Laila has mentioned a lot, but I think I just want to add on a few things is that government delivery services is very important to the public. And today, there is a lot of channels that we need to go through, and physically, sometimes we have to be there in order to get the subsidies or grants from the governments to the public to realize. And also the case, I think there is a lot of fraudulent along the way, and then you couldn't identify or targeted group that you wanted it to be. And therefore, it is very so-called a little bit inefficient for us to look into how all these grant and subsidies that the government delivery services need to reach out to a selected group. And therefore, I think having a digital ID or eliminate all these so-called challenges, and it's also very easy for the government to mobilize resources to reach out to the public. And last but not least, I think to revolutionize the entire industry, as well as we are talking about digital economy, digital ID can touch on every single level of the economy that the Malaysia is having. Does not matter that whether it's an enterprise or even an SME.
Okay.
So there's many use cases that we are looking into. And one of the things, of course, in the commercial providers of goods and services, we always thought about eKYC. Today, eKYC can only be realized if you are able to connect to the single source of truth. And the single source of truth in the country is only one, department, and that department is where Laila is working. That's the National Registration Department.
Yep.
And that will make things much, clearer for us to understand how eKYC can actually achieve. And many other contexts, as well as we are looking at how e-government services can realize digital tax filing, direct disbursement of government benefits, as what I mentioned, including perhaps maybe in future, we could even realize the dream of having an online voting or verification of political donation or even school enrollment, right? So these are some of the good examples that you can see from the slides itself. And a little bit of what NEC has been providing in the context of biometrics.
Okay.
We have started biometrics fingerprints research in 1971 and face recognitions in 1989 and iris in 2007. Throughout the entire journey, I think we have enough accolades that are being recognized by NIST or National Institute of Standard and Technology in US that looks into the technology providers and how efficient, accurate, and performance of the technology can be. And we have won quite a number of accolades.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, in just 2021, we just again be recognized for facial and iris being number one in terms of accuracy and efficiency, delivering what we call a multi-modal authentication, not just fingerprints, but we can do more than fingerprints and facial and iris. As you can see from the video earlier on, we can capture the face and iris together, and we do identification of both facial and iris simultaneously together. If you have the right, tools to do that. In this case, the camera. Right. With that, I just want to hand back to you, Karam.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Let's bring all the three panelists back for our conversation. And I will always start with one question, which is for all the three panelists, and then we're going to go into the separate questions. And I see some interesting questions also coming already. But just quickly, really, and my question is always around the topic of the day, right? So we're talking about a national digital ID and complementing a digital space. So a lot of us live our lives digitally already, right? So my question for each of you, and I'm going to start with you, Fabian, is that how do you see this national digital ID enriching our lives from a business and then from a personal point of view? So, and then the same question for Laila and also Dennis.
Of course, thank you, Karamjit. Of course, the quick answer is convenience and of course secure authentication. But let's relate to our personal experience. In the past, I have this financial institution, I won't mention name. Before they pay me my interest and all that for my savings, for some reason they need to authenticate to make sure that who I really am. They even asked for my father's birth cert, for God's sake, to prove that I'm Malaysian and Sarawakian.
Wow.
So I had to call my dad and say, look, I need I need your birth cert. Can you have it certified through copy? To make sure that to prove that I'm your legitimate son. So I think with advent of technology now and with this initiative, I don't know how to do that, right? Because the moment you authenticate yourself digitally, you already prove that you are who you say you are.
Yep.
Yeah. So I got a letter actually for that effect. So that is one thing. And another example I can use is when your employers pass, right? I was in one department and then I left, then I came back. And then when I worked in another department, they asked me to again fill 12 pages of form, names and all that. So I had to repetitively fill that thing and then make reference to my family records. With this kind of initiative, I think that can be eliminated, So I guess the long and short of that is the convenience. Yeah.
Understood. Yeah. And that's we all of us put a premium to convenience, right? And you look at the kind of, and which is why so many of us do e-commerce, right? it may not necessarily be cheaper anymore. It used to be cheap was the great incentive. Of course, 11/11 shopping bonanza coming soon, so maybe we'll be doing it because it's cheap. But otherwise, a lot of times it's convenience, and the pandemic showed that even besides convenience, it's just practical already. Right? It's become practical. Being in this low-touch economy, just going online and getting things is practical. But anyway, Laila, can you answer this question? And then we'll go to Dennis, and then we'll address some of the questions you've already asked.
Okay. For me, digital IDA will provide instant access to services, whether from my own bedroom,
yep,
or anywhere from even in suburban or the rural areas. So it's very convenient and it's very fast access. So we can get end-to-end service without going to the counter or going to the bank or anywhere we need the service.
Okay. I think when you say not going to the counter, that's like music to my ears, man. If you don't have to go to any government counter, which is great. Excellent. Okay. Dennis, what about you?
I just want to echo what Fabian has mentioned. I give you another scenario over here. A few years back, I lost my, wallet. And the first thing you need to do is have to make a police report because your credit card is gone. Your IC is gone. Basically, my card is gone. So what you need to do is the next thing is that you run out of cash. You run out of cash, and I need to go to the bank to withdraw money, and I need to first of all get back my ATM card. The first thing the bank officer would tell me is that I need to verify your thumbprint before I can issue you an ATM card.
Okay.
And I only have a police report, and I couldn't verify it, so there's no IC for them to actually verify.
Okay.
And I have to live with that for 2-3 days before I can actually go back to to get my IC and then go back to the bank. So I have to live on borrowings.
Wow.
So having, just now when we talked about digital ID, like Puan Laila says that, once digital ID is ready, authentication can be done via, the database from JPN itself. I think that will definitely helps a lot because it's convenience. It's convenience and it can verify your identity on the spot.
Okay, fine. So I hear you saying that the information will be in the JPN database. So there was one question earlier, Laila, from somebody, I forgot her name, on how secure is the data, right, being held. So maybe you can answer that, Laila, later. But I'm going to go to Fabian first with my questions. And this was asked by somebody, I think Andy Roy, right, from Agrobank. And he's asking how will the government implement and monitor the National Digital ID Initiative, right? Who's going to be in charge? So, Fabian? You're on mute, Fabian.
Yeah. Okay. Of course, overall, this is under the purview of because it's a part of the initiative under the MyDigital. So, of course, the National Council will also, oversee this. But more specifically, I think there is a Majlis, a council for national ID that is under the purview of the Home Minister. So, at the implementation level, I think at the Home Ministry, there is already, a mechanism to, supervise this. So I think Puan Laila can also, attest to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, the next question I'll give is for Puan Laila, and this comes from a senior executive from Post DigiCert, right? And very relevant, which is how soon, I guess, Laila, right? Can we expect for this rollout to begin? And is there going to be like a pilot before we do the national rollout?
How soon?
Soon. Okay, man. Music to my ears. Music to my urban ears. Okay.
The planning process for IDN began this year.
Okay.
And we plan to roll out in 2024.
Okay.
But maybe we can first pilot IDN in late 2023.
Okay. So that's the timeline. So when you see 2024, though, as a journalist like me, look, December 30th is 2024 and January 2nd or so, right? So are we looking at like January of that year? Because obviously all of us want it to be in January, right? 2024, not December. So
not December, of course. So we plan to pilot in maybe October or November 2023. And full rollout start from January 2024.
Wonderful.
Okay. Inshallah.
Very good. Okay, very good. So all of you out there, just make your voice heard on social media, because the government is very attentive to social media, to all the rakyat, right? So express your impatience, and you want it to be done, ASAP, right? So then you're indirectly making Laila work harder, Laila and her colleagues. Okay. Now, Dennis, a question for you, which is what are the key business implications, right, for corporations, right, that they need to be aware of from the implementation of the National Digital ID? And this comes from Majid, a director of a consultancy.
I think that's a wonderful question. This is really important that when we talk about MyDigital blueprints that pan out, the 6 pillar that Fabian has actually mentioned about in his presentation. One of the things that we wanted to look into is really helping the country to realize the dream of what digital economy contributing to the GDP itself, right? In MyDigital blueprints, it says that by 2025, the digital economy should contribute about 22.6% of the country GDP.
Mm-hmm.
That is quite a tall order. I think we should be able to realize, and I hope that we really realize, but what should we do now? Most important thing is that there is a lot of systematic digital transformation happening across all industry.
Oh yeah, of course.
And this digital transformation is not about digitizing, the manual process that you have, but really put into digitalization of the people, the process, upskilling, reskilling of the people, and automate a lot of process to realize, the way how they conduct their business, right? And it touches not just within the government sector, but like what Laila shared earlier on, the enterprise as well as the citizen itself, right? That will revolutionize our industry, our economy, as well as we can do a lot of transaction in a cyber world more efficiently and securely. I think that's the most important thing. Okay. Of course, I see that there's a lot of questions coming out, from the chat saying that they are very concerned about security. I think this concern has always been there. I think MyCard, we have the data there. We live with MyCard for more than 30 years.
Yep.
Right? And the data is secure. Under the Digital Act, that's the reason just now I mentioned about PKI. That's where legislation is all about. We have Digital Act, we live by, with PKI to protect, the data set that we have. But on top of that, today, new technology has actually emerged, like blockchain. Right?
Yeah.
Are we going to adopt blockchain? The answer is perhaps yes or maybe no, depending on other policies that put in place, because blockchain is very wide. It could stay within the country or it could cross outside the country. And how do we regulate, right? And have the right policies to look into safeguarding, the information, and it could be some of the servers is outside of the country.
Yep.
So I think these are some of the things that perhaps the government will look into the details and also study, right? In terms of how we would really want to protect this data. But rest be assured that, we have lived with PKI.
Yep.
PKI is part of the Digital Act in 1997 Digital Act. And that's where our data has been protected all the time.
Yeah, true.
Under MyCard.
I think I think Rasman, and you kind of answered Rasman's question also, which is a very good question, right? Why are we using PKI when you've got blockchain there? So I guess although I'm a tech journalist, I don't understand the mechanism or the granularity of it to give a good answer. But I hope, Rasman, you're happy what Dennis has said. If not, means you can ask him a follow-up question on that. And also, I think there was a good question just quickly before I go to Fabian. I think from Junaidi, right? She asked actually, Laila, about the enrollment mechanism, which is quite interesting. So how are we going to enroll ourselves, right, into the digital ID, so that then my information, because I also know that two of the panelists said that it's up to you as to what kind of information you're going to put in the digital ID. And I don't know whether you have a choice or there is a minimum, everybody must answer these 12 questions no matter what, then anything else is optional. Because I remember one of the very first questions we got from somebody who RSVP was, if you have a criminal record, does your criminal record have to be in your national digital ID? And I thought that was a beautiful question. So, Laila, would you like to address that? Not about the criminal record, but about, the enrollment mechanism. And if actually one of you want to take the criminal record one, by all means, fine.
Okay, for enrollment of digital ID.
Once it starts.
we plan that all the citizens comes once to JPN's counter.
Okay.
So that we can capture new biometric, new fingers, new face, and plus iris. So that activity only once.
Okay.
Only once. So we can capture all the new biometric and we save it in our new database for next use.
Understood. So latest lah. Good. Okay.
When service provider needs to verify their customer using digital ID, then we open to do the verification.
Okay. Understood. Great. All right. So now let me move on to Fabian. If you want to take any question, fine, because this is a question that I think you kind of answered already, but you also highlighted this, and which is from Wong Chi Hai, who's the head of project management office, right? Datasonic. So very important responsibility he has there, and he's asking about how citizens benefit from digital ID, and I think people are constantly trying to understand this better. So although you gave some, as you gave the word convenience, right, and you gave your own micro example, is that how else would you answer this? Because you wanted to take this question. Any other examples?
Of course, I did show a slide, in terms of applications, right?
Yeah, the various applications.
So the various applications, for example, there was a question, I think, in the chat group talking about health records. Yeah, of course, now health records, things are moving towards electronic health records. So, but then if you request for electronic health records, how do we prove that it's you, right? Because, health records is very personal.
Oh, totally,
You don't want it to fall into the wrong hands. So how the hospital or the health authorities, how do they verify that it is you that is requesting? So therefore, this is one of it. You're sitting for exams, for example, education, you're sitting for exams. Now, you have exams online, especially in the recent events. How do we actually verify that it's you sitting there, all the time, filling in the question? Of course, with ID, with other technologies to verify your presence is important as well. Then, for those on welfare assistance, receiving welfare assistance, right? Now, money is just, you don't have to be physically there. Money is just transferred to your account.
Yep.
But then when you request for it, we apply for it. How do we know it's you, right? Because in the physical world, you can bring your IC and show.
Yes.
But in the digital world, there's no equivalent. So your equivalent of that is your digital ID, national digital ID. Then, of course, a host of government services, banking institutions, especially now, that, again, just like the welfare assistance, you need to verify who you are. If you want to go electronic banking, how do we know it's you, So hence, again, things like that. So these are a few examples that will be, I'm sure there are a lot more services,
Okay. That's fine. Let me just move on to the question for Laila, although I snuck in an extra question for you just now. And this is from, this is actually a question that you thought was important, right, Laila? And thank you for that. Will we need to carry our my card with us, right? Once we already have this NDI, also National Digital ID.
Of course, we still need to bring our ID card.
Oh, okay.
Well, ID card is for every citizen, and there are still other places that a person need to show their physical card. But in order to use or to do an online transaction that require verification, then we will use IDN.
Okay.
We use IDN for online transaction to verify you are you.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with that process. Sounds interesting. But that is during the one time when we all have to go to the IC department, to the JPN department. Okay. Yeah. No, sorry, I was asking, will that be when we go the first time to update our database again, or no?
Of course, for the first time, we need to generate that digital ID. We must come to the JPN office for the first time only.
So, okay, what if, like I've got a beard, right? For some reason, what if I shave myself, right? After that, then, of course, it can happen, right? So, Do I have to go back in again physically to update my visual? No need. Oh wow.
No, only once.
Wow.
Yes.
Because you got other points, right? Iris or
yes.
Okay.
The point around your face will be captured and be that one we capture it and put it in our database.
Okay. So
So,
multiple points lah. So no, I was thinking, right, because you don't have to carry your IC anymore, because if the policeman or the enforcement, right, stop you and ask to see ID, I would love to say scan my eye, man. Just show them your eye and they scan, and that's your ID there. That'd be so cool, man.
So Karam, maybe perhaps I can just add on what Laila has actually mentioned earlier on. I think this is a very great question, but let me just help everyone to understand better how this complementary of my card and digital ID is. It's about how these two things actually complement each other.
Okay.
I give you a scenario. For instance, today there is a question that asks, what if you have a digital ID but connectivity goes down? It went into offline.
Yeah.
How are you going to do this transaction? Okay. Perhaps maybe I want to share something over here. I'm not too sure everyone can see clearly. There is a technology. Assuming that our next generation of my card, this is the smart microcomputer card.
Okay.
Right? And what does this card do? If assuming this is our my card, if you look at the label over here, there is this area where you can put your fingerprint.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Okay.
You put your fingerprint and it support NFC like Wave. You can wave it against your smart devices, like your handphone.
Yep.
Right? And that will help you to do whatever authentication offline, right? Or whatever terminal that you have.
Understood.
And one of the things is very important about this complementary of my card as well as digital ID is that when you have put up a use case, like for instance, you want to do e-wallet payment clearance, you need to motivate the industry to go into digital transformation. And of course, cost is always a concern. Today, I think all business is to really keep their business afloat.
Yep.
But if you want to invest, say, for instance, a point of sales, today point of sales don't have a camera. And how do you want to do that authentication? But they do have a terminal to pay wave. So you can make use this kind of smart microcomputer card. You can authenticate and you just wave it against and you have done your transaction. So that's where I see that there is a complementary. So back to the question, do you still need to bring along your my card? Why not?
Yeah.
Right? And of course, you have digital ID because digital ID is not just biometrics. It does have many other information. Like what I say, it can be your health ID also as well.
Yeah.
You get into an accident, you know what is your blood type there, you know what are the drugs that you are allergic to. This information can easily bring out. When you're in hospital, they don't have to do many tests because it's really part of your digital ID.
Yeah.
Right?
Understood. Okay.
I hope I answered some of the questions. One of the questions actually posted in your chat group saying that what if you go offline? I think that's panned down perfectly in that situation.
And also there was actually, I think this is a tough question from Willie, right? Willie Yo. And it came in at 4:32 if you're looking. And I just happened to catch it is that about how do you ensure your phone is tamper-proof, right? Because if you get an MITM attack. So that's kind of interesting. So obviously, it feels like some people feel like the phone is going to be an important accessory when we have our digital ID also, right? You obviously must have the phone with you. Is that a given also? So I think this open to any one of you. Is the phone a given that we must always have our phone with us for your digital ID to be able to come into play and where it becomes this convenience tool for you? Well, obviously, when you're not at home, right, you'll need the phone.
Not necessary. Not necessary. I mean, phone will be very handy, but in any case, I think it can be a laptop or even a kiosk wherever you are. So I saw some of the questions that asked, eKYC now can be done online. Does it mean that somebody can actually stay at home or stay away remotely to open a bank account? The answer certainly is yes.
Yeah, correct.
Because eKYC can now be done. You're connecting to the single, the single source of truth, which is JPN is having that information. So to answer that question, yes, of course, you have handy devices that will help you to have better use cases, right? The way how you want to do transaction. But often the case, not necessary. It can be a kiosk, it can be laptops, it can be even a tablets, right? Especially when you are talking about distance learning, I think Fabian mentioned about if you are doing your exam, right, remotely, I'm sure you are using a laptop instead of a phone, right? Yeah. And that easily can be done, using the online connectivity to your laptop to authenticate yourself, and then you sit your exam.
Okay, cool. Thanks. We've only got, the thing that frustrates me about our top in tech is that you think 1 hour is a long time, and then before you know it, it's like, you're down to the last 10 minutes and last, 7-8 minutes is very frustrating. I think something's wrong with the timer on my PC. We should have probably 15 more minutes, I don't know. But Fabian, there have been so many very, very good questions. Is there any one question you want to take? Because I'm actually going to give the last question to Dennis again, which is a business-related one. Is there anything that you wanted to take from any of the questions you've seen? Hold on, Dennis. Just Fabian first. If he's any question he wants to take. Anything there, Dennis? Fabian, that caught your attention? Oh, you're on mute. Sorry, Fabian, on mute.
One was talking about, I think Kevin was talking about, now commercial e-payment players have found ways to verify our ID, and the government also relied on this ability to transfer funding. How will digital ID make it better? But now I think if you go for e-payment and all that, it's your credit card details only, right? They take your credit card details and then they send it to your phone, and you verify it, with the codes and all that. But of course, that is the way it's done now. But but that is also not secure. If people have access to your credit card, have access to your phone, at the same time, like for example, Dennis lost his wallet. Yeah. What if he lost his phone as well? Then someone in the meantime, before he lodged a police report, someone could have, again, access to that. So I think one way this can solve that problem is through this technology. Yeah, digital ID. Okay. Because you have a credit card there, I have your phone there, but still you cannot authenticate. Okay, understood. Okay, thanks. Pon Laila, is there any question you want to take? Or else I'll give the last question to Dennis. Then we'll do the your key takeaways. Anything you want to answer that you saw that was quite interesting? No. Okay, fine. Probably too many questions. Okay, Dennis, the question for you is that because the adoption will probably be voluntary, how do you ensure successful adoption then? Because I don't know if the government is going to make it mandatory that we have a 12-month period, right? That everybody must go into an IC department with their children and all, right, and their elderlies and get their national digital ID captured. I don't know whether that's but this question assumes it's going to be voluntary. So how do you do adoption? A successful adoption here.
I think in any rollout of a new technology, there's always skepticism from the public. There's a lot of awareness needs to be done. We went through the same vicious cycle when first government introduced that everyone have to go into vaccination. There's hesitance, and then eventually I think a lot of awareness has been done. Eventually more people will take up vaccination, and not to mention that there is a lot of constraint. If you are not vaccinated, you can't go into certain premises. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I will foresee that it's on a voluntary basis, but if you really want to do a certain transaction and you do not have a digital ID, well, you can still fall back into the traditional way. Physically, you have to present there, but I guess you're going to do a little bit of weightage over here, whether the time and effort that you want to spend versus having the digital ID and you can just do it in minutes, right? Again, a very good example, when you buy a car or you want to sell a car, the transfer of ownership and taking IC for photo stats, and then people want to do a cross out, on the photo stat IC. Is that the best way? But that is what we are practicing today. But that will eventually be gone if there is a digital ID put in place, right? The number of steps that we have to go through, JPJ will need a photo stat IC again because you need to register your car, right? Then when you want to purchase a car, the company that sells you the car also need your IC, right? When you want to sell the car, say for instance, you want to go through JPJ again they need your IC. All these are done physically today, what we are practicing, right? And think about it, if with digital ID, the convenience of it. So systematically, I think when we roll out, awareness needs to be there, put in place. But over time, I believe when the public awareness is more, then I think the take-up will drastically, I will see that there will be a pickup.
Okay.
We went through the same thing for vaccination.
Yeah,
I know a lot of concern on security. Of course, this 1 hour is not good enough for us to, to address all this.
Yeah.
But the same security has put in place for my card. We have PKI, a symmetrical key, a public key, and a private key to protect whatever devices that you have. One key is in of course, in the government data center because it's a pair of keys, right?
Yep.
And on top of that, there are options for you to look into things like blockchain, right? Moreover, I think it's not just about fingerprint. I saw one of the question asking about today they have this silicon fingerprint to fake, your fingerprint. But we're talking about multi-modality. We are talking about, if you look at a video, it's not just fingerprint. We're talking about fingerprint, facial, and iris, combination of few. It's not just one factor.
Understood.
So I think there is adequate enough, technology put in place. It's just about how we carry out and how we implement it for our country.
And I think by the time we all have to walk into the nearest JPN office, and Puan Laila is there greeting us with a smile and maybe a shopping voucher. I don't know, right? Early adopters get shopping voucher, right? Probably by then there'll be even voice recognition, right? So you've got the quadruple modality, even voice recognition. So cool. The technology is evolving, and by the time implementation happens, I think it will be at the cutting edge, right? And to also reassure Malaysians who are very demanding, and absolutely all of you have to be very demanding and loud to say, right, you want this to be done, top class, world class level standards, right? With that, now I want to just do quickly the wrap up. Your key takeaways, if you can each spend maybe maximum of 45 seconds, what do you want the audience to take away from today's conversation? Fabian, we start with you first. What would be your key takeaway from today?
When I look at the questions, of course, a lot of concern about, how do we actually verify whether, biometrics and all that. Of course, as time goes by, because our phones now can pick our fingerprints, can even scan our face and all that. So I guess technology will be there, but of course, the devil's in the details. I'm sure KDN or Jabatan Pendaftaran Negara will take all this into account. How do we actually apply it, in the future? So that is that. I think it's still too early to sort of get into the details right now, because I think as Laila mentioned, they are starting to they've been planning about this, but the real work will start next year. Yeah. I think as time goes by, we will get more information from that. Of course, we are also interested.
Yeah.
In JPN. Right.
Okay. Cool. All right. Puan Laila, for your key takeaways.
Okay, as we all know that National Digital ID is a national project that will benefit all of us, whether public sector or private sector or citizens itself. I hope all of us will give us support, full support, and be involved in this project. This is a government project.
Okay. All right. Full support. Okay. Very good. Thanks, Laila. Dennis?
Okay. Very simple. I think the locomotive or the bandwagon has already started.
Okay.
We have the MyDigital blueprint put in place, and the only way to realize, whatever we pan out in the MyDigital blueprint, first thing first, we have to get digital ID to be ready, right? Because that's the fundamental, and that's how we want to drive digital economy. Now, in NEC, we have good experience in implementing digital ID. We've done it for the country that in India, right? It's a public reference for 1.3 billion population. We are talking about 1.3 billion population. And they only have one ID. It's called digital ID. They don't have anything like my card. And they live with that, right? So there are many, many use cases. There are many, many reference points that we can learn, from other, implementations, especially in a country that is very, very concerned about GDPR, as in Europe. And there are many nations in Europe itself has already adopted digital ID. So we are not new. We are not the first one. We should have enough reference point to learn And I strongly believe that JPM will do their level best to
Oh,
serve
yeah.
the national interest. Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, good. Thanks a lot, gentlemen, and thank you so much, everyone. I'm afraid to look at my questions after 4 minutes, after 4:47, because I got 25 new messages. But seriously, right? There's so many questions. It shows people are very interested in this topic, right? And it is super important. So, upon Laila, you got to take back to your colleagues all. Hey, man, there's some serious, interest in this, and people want it to be done very well, and lots of questions, which is great for you to take back. Also, I hope the event team can compile actually these questions and pass to Puan Laila. Also, I think it's very, very useful for them. They may have public consultation, I don't know, but useful. Fantastic. I really enjoyed today's session. And now let's just bring on Prem for his final thoughts before we end the session. Although there will be a final video also before we leave now. And then for all of you, remember while the video is playing, I think the three panelists will be engaging with you also quickly, right? Answering some of the questions if they can. All right, Prem.
Hi, thanks so much, Karamjit. Thanks so much, Dennis, Puan Laila, and Fabian. I think it's a really interesting discussion. I think we have a huge number of participants, much more than usual.
Yeah.
And you can see the questions coming furiously, right? I think everybody feels that it's going to touch their life. We all know how important our IC is. So we all want to know what's going to happen when we have a digital IC, right? I think it's really something that the government can invest in talking to people, and will really show, symbolize our country's advancement into the digital age.
Yeah.
I think more and more things we are doing in terms of digital, and it will really show how our whole country and government and the people are moving into, integrating digital lifestyles into the way we work, the way we do things, and how our businesses operate. I think even for Malaysia Kini, we always have a problem. People want to identify our subscribers, identify people who make comments on Malaysia Kini.
Yeah.
And it's near impossible, right? I mean, we can't be verifying everybody. If they give us a name, if they give us an email, we just accept it at face value. Really this is going to be something that even at Malaysia Kini we are looking for.
Yeah, media companies, right? Because you're accountable for your readers' comments now, right? So
That's right.
This will definitely help authenticate them, so that next time you don't have to go to court. They go to court.
That's right. Yeah.
But
everybody can be responsible for their own comments.
Yeah. So we are definitely moving into a very interesting era, and I personally hope that by January 1st, 2024, right, we are ready to rock and roll, man, right, and get it going. So looking at eager for that, and thank you all for the privilege of your time, right, for spending time with us throughout this whole hour and a little bit more than 1 hour. We will now, probably just play our concluding video, and don't forget, if you remember, you saw the video earlier about the Top in Tech Awards. So please spread the love about the awards, right? It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah,
and we look forward to the next Top in Tech. Sorry, go ahead, Pres.
Definitely, yeah. A big thanks for NEC for sponsoring this event, and of course our two speakers, Puan Laila and Fabian, of course Karamjit for moderating it, and then our partners as well, Scale Up Malaysia, Kini Events for organizing, and then as well as the Internet Alliance. So thank you very much, and we look to have you back for the next episode of Top in Tech.
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Multimodal biometric authentication. Integration of face and iris recognition technologies enhances convenience and reliability.
Orchestrating a brighter world. NEC.